Hi, Young Investor Society. This is James Fletcher, and it is my profound honor and privilege to be here with billionaire Mark Cuban, owner of the Dallas Mavericks and ABC Shark Tank star. Mark, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you guys for coming to Dallas for this.
Yeah. So it was 2 years ago when we had our first interview. At the time, Young Investor Society, we had about 44 schools. Today, we're in 210 schools.
Oh, wow.
We're in 3,000 students that are actively participating in Young Investor Society.
Good for you.
And it's grown from just the United States organization to Hong Kong, India, Pakistan, Malaysia. Cate joined us from Malaysia. And so I'll turn the time over to Cate for the questions.
Hi, I'm Cate Van Cott. I'm from the International School of Kuala Lumpur. And we've had a club since 2017. We've grown it to about 50 members across high school and middle school. And we are an amazing group of young kids. We love learning about investing, and we've become huge fans of Shark Tank and Mark Cuban.
I appreciate that.
And Young Investor Society has been a life-changing experience for all of us. So I'd just like to thank you again for having us here, and it's a really honor to be here.
I know it was a long flight, so I appreciate you and Dad and everybody coming out.
So to kick it off with our first question, you've seen a lot of pitches over the years. You were able to see my pitch for Shed Defenders and Cupboard Pro from season 10 of Shark Tank. You've seen hundreds of pitches on Shark Tank. So what is it that makes a good pitch? What are you looking for?
Well, first of all, I have to like the company, you know, or the product or service. There's got to be something unique or differentiated about it. Second, you have to have an entrepreneur that eats, sleeps, and breathes their company and really understands it inside and out. And third, you have to have the investor or the entrepreneur's got to have confidence. You know, if I detect that you're not completely confident in what you've started as your company, then how can I have confidence in it? So if you come in with something that has a unique element to it that I think can sustain a company, knowing your company inside and out because you eat, sleep, and breathe it, and you know you're so confident you know it's a great pitch, then I'm gonna listen and I'm gonna give you a shot, just like you did in your pitches.
How would you say, Mark, it's different investing in a stock versus investing in a company in Shark Tank?
Well, when you're investing in a private company and an entrepreneur, it's completely different because it's typically a newer company. It's not as far along in its life cycle versus with a stock. It's dramatically different. One, because it's public and there's more information publicly available. You're going to be able to read all the quarterly earnings and all their filings and get in-depth information there. But even more important than that is you're competing with other investors. You know, nobody sells you a stock because they expect it to go down. So when you buy a share of stock of, you know, Google, you know, whoever sold that to you, chances are they weren't selling it because, oh, you know, Google's going to go up another 20%. So you've always got to consider that there's two sides to every transaction, and ask yourself as an investor in a public company, what do you see that somebody else doesn't, and do you have confidence in it? Because, you know, you can make a lot of money in the stock market, but you can lose all of it in the blink of an eye. And so you have to be very prepared.
And you've referred to, I guess, yourself and your younger you as a hustler. And so I've watched a lot of your interviews.
I'm still a young me.
Huge fan. And also, you sold powdered milk magazines,
everything,
stamp arbitrage. You were teaching disco lessons.
That's not the way I call it. You know, we sold candy.
And I think you were bartending for a while, a lot of different jobs. And a lot of this, I guess, entrepreneurial spirit is internal motivation. It comes from personality, passion, and drive. How can other teenagers learn to kind of develop this passion or drive for business, or does it need to be innate?
I don't think it needs to be innate. I think, you know, like anybody, when you're a teen, you don't really know what you want to be when you grow up, right? You're exposed to so many different things and you're learning so many different things. And one day you want to be a basketball player. The next day you want to play guitar. The next day you want to start a company, you know, and you don't have to know exactly what you want to be when you grow up. I think what I encourage people to do is try a lot of different things. You know, that list you went through of the things I did, from powdered milk. I wasn't a powdered milk expert, you know, selling candy, selling magazines. I was willing to try a lot of different things. And as I tried all those different things, I gained confidence. I gained confidence that I could sell. I gained confidence that if I put in the time, I can understand a product and understand the value of that product to a potential user. And I got all those benefits and all those skill sets from just trying things. And so, if you're in high school, middle school, college, community college, whatever it may be, don't try to limit yourself. Try a lot of different things, expose yourself. But the key is really learning. I guess that more than anything else, you have to be excited to learn. And if you're excited to learn and you learn about business as well, you're going to see different opportunities. You might find your own candy arbitrage.
Well, speaking of learning how to learn, I was listening to your interview with Barry Ritzold from Masters in Business, and you talk about learning how to learn and also the importance of critical thinking skills for teenagers. And what exactly does that mean? Because we hear about critical thinking a lot, especially in school. I hear that term all the time, but it's really ambiguous. I don't know exactly what it means.
So learning how to learn means being excited about learning. When I was a kid, it was all in books, and paperback books were easiest, but you either were paperback or you were hardcover. Now you have sources of information that are almost limitless in format and scope and availability. And so learning how to learn means finding all the information that's available to you and getting excited to consume it. I still walk through bookstores looking at magazines and looking at book titles just to see if there's something that gets me interested or gets me excited. So that's part one to answer your question. Just getting excited to learn new things, because the only constant in life is change. And two, in terms of critical thinking, it's learning how to apply what you've learned. It's one thing just to sit there and lay in bed and just go, oh gee, I wish, I wonder, I did, and then it's another thing to think, okay, how would I put this to use? What about what I've just learned today is going to make a difference in my life or the life of others? It may not be a profit motive. It may be just you have a social motive where you want to make the world a little bit of a better place. I was just talking to some folks yesterday about different choices you have when you come out of high school in terms of going to college versus starting a career before college, start learning a trade. And everybody's different, and you don't have to get it right out when you graduate from high school. But in terms of critical thinking, you want to be able to come to a conclusion and feel confident in those conclusions. And I'd say that's how I defined it. Being able to reach a conclusion and being confident in the fact that you did your homework and you unturned all the stones to get all the information you needed to make that decision.
And what would you say to a young person who is kind of finding that sort of critical thinking skills, and when they're considering all these choices, like what to do after high school, would you recommend having them pursue their dreams, say of being a musician, an artist, or a pro basketball player? Or would you recommend them to find a career that can put them in a place where they can retire early and then pursue their dreams, like a lawyer or banker?
Well, first of all, they're not all mutually exclusive. You can go to college and still be a basketball player or be a musician. You can go to college for one class or one major, if you will, and take online courses to teach yourself other things. I mean, when I was in high school, I always wanted to take business. I knew I was interested in business. I would read business books. I would read biographies about Ted Turner and whoever I could find a biography about. But my high school didn't have business classes. And so I had to do a lot of that reading on my own. And in fact, they wouldn't let me, when I was a junior, I wanted to take the one economics class they had for seniors, and they wouldn't let me take it. So that's why I started college early. And so, you can try multiple things. You can be on multiple paths and see what's interesting to you. And I'd say part two to all that is don't stress. I think we all go through these different milestones in our lives. We turn 16, right? We graduate from high school. We decide what we're going to do next. And when you're graduating from high school, it's like, oh my goodness, this is the next stage of my life. What am I supposed to do? And I've got to make the right choices. And in reality, you're not going to make all the right choices, and you're not going to have all the answers. But what you want to try to do is experience as many different things as you can, so that adds to your experience levels, so that in the future you make better choices. And in terms of what you do next for college and career, I think the world is changing right now, even more than it did. Well, let me rephrase that. Every generation has got multiple technological changes that impact that generation. When I was getting going, it was PCs. And people didn't need PCs. What do I need a PC from? I got this piece of paper, I'll write things down. I've got this adding machine, see how fast I am in my adding machine, and oh, by the way, I can use a typewriter. And then the PCs came along and spreadsheets came along. It was like, wow, this changes. Then we connected the PCs into local area networks. And that was like, wow, we can communicate. And that was changing everything. Then the internet came along and it was brand new to everybody and everybody had to learn. And then, mobile phones came around and everything and wireless networks and everything became, wireless and mobile, and you had access to everything everywhere. Now artificial intelligence is coming along. And if, before PCs came along and you were going to college, we never thought, okay, I need to learn PCs. But then we did. And then when the internet came along, kids who were going to college are making those decisions. Then, if you were getting ready to go to college in 1992, before the internet was really prevalent, you didn't think, okay, I got to learn the internet, or I've got to learn JavaScript. But then when you got out of school, you did. And then you learned how to use a mobile phone if you were 6 years old or older, and AI will have the same type of impact. And the point is, things are always going to change. And if you like to learn and you're adaptive and you're a critical thinker, you don't have to make all the right, perfect choices right now. You just have to get excited about learning. You just have to put yourself in a position to try new things and learn about as many things as you can, because it's going to change. You don't live in the world you were born into. How old are you?
18.
So since 2001 or 2000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah, 2000.
Okay, so you're born in 2000. All the things that have changed, and you think it's going to slow down? No, it's only going to accelerate. And ask Dad about all the things that have changed since he got started, and so those things will probably accelerate as opposed to slowing down. And it's never going to slow down. And so, you don't have to stress. And I think all those changes will also lead kids to really not focus so much on a career as in enhancing their skill set and trying to really do things that are important to them. Because we have access to be able to, have arbitrages for our time. What's an Uber driver, Lyft driver? There's somebody who arbs their time by driving a car. And people, if you work for TaskRabbit, if you work for Postmates, you're just selling your time. And so everybody's always going to have the opportunity to sell their time. It's just, what skills do you have and what can you get in return for those skills? And I think that's kind of going to be how work kind of evolves into the future. Long-winded answer for a short question, but hey, you ask, Cate.
Yeah. Well, I think that kind of goes hand in hand with broadcast.com, because I feel like that idea was so ahead of its time as well. And I mean, nowadays streaming services are everywhere. Netflix has like 25% of internet traffic at night. But in 1999, you agreed to sell broadcast.com to Yahoo for $5.7 billion. But in
that was a fun day.
And in 2006, if we look at Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook, he was offered $1 billion from Yahoo, but he turned it down and parlayed that into $500 billion for Facebook. So what do you think would have happened if you held on to broadcast.com?
If I didn't sell, I think we'd be Pandora, Spotify, YouTube, and a lot more DirecTV Now. I mean, Netflix, all those things, because what they're doing now is what we were doing starting in 1997, 98 when we started doing video. We bought 10% of Lionsgate and we were streaming movies and TV shows. We had hundreds of internet radio stations. We had original radio stations. We had everything from police scanners to Christmas music all year round to you name it. We had an online jukebox where you can come in and pick any song you wanted. We helped break Matchbox 20. I'll never forget when they first came out. We helped break their first CD.
Really?
Yeah. And so, hopefully, if we would have been able to executing in a business is always the hardest part. We'd be all those things. Now, do I regret it? No, because I've had a lot of fun along the way, and all this and Shark Tank and the Mavs. I never would have had time to do it.
And so, considering broadcast.com, to what idea or concept would you compare streaming then to, I guess, a new idea now? Because it was so ahead of its time. It was a really radical idea. And just to give you a little perspective, I wasn't born when
Don't
broadcast.com
remind me.
started.
My daughter, my oldest daughter's 15, and she reminds me every day. So there's a lot of things. I mean, so a couple questions there. One, if I'm in high school and I need to earn some extra money, what's some forward-thinking technological business that I would start? I would program Alexa and Google Home skills all day, every day. I'd go to my neighbors, I'd go to businesses, I'd go to car dealerships that sell cars that have Alexa integrated, and I'd say, I'm your Alexa expert. If you want me to customize your lights, if you want me to customize, zones in your house, if you want me to customize your car and create skills, do you want me to create skills for your business? So when you say, tell me about the Dallas Mavericks to Alexa, tell me about the Dallas Mavericks, it says something. And says what you want it to say instead of somebody else doing it for you. That'd be the first business I start. And I, start at $25 an hour and go up depending on how much I can get paid. And how old do you have to be to do that? 12, 13. You just have to be able to go to blueprint.amazon.com, I think it is. And, just like taking, so basic programming skills, just like learning HTML. It's really simple, but most people don't think to do those things. So that's one. Two, I'd start learning about artificial intelligence, and that sounds a lot more advanced than it is. There's tutorials like that I've taken and on AWS, on Amazon Web Services that taught me about machine learning using effective basic spreadsheets. I teach myself Python, which is a really basic programming language. Those are the types of things that if you can get a grasp on now, then at 18, 19, 20, you can walk into a business and say, you've heard a lot about artificial intelligence. You really don't understand it, do you? And be able to say, you know what, I understand your business, it's a shoe store, and I'm going to tell you how to best choose what products will sell and give you a competitive advantage over other shoe stores or trying to compete with Amazon and having somebody, why would somebody come into your store or buy online from you versus Amazon, and give you insights that only because you know your customer base. I'm going to teach you how to manage your communications with customers. There's so many different ways that you can use artificial intelligence it's not difficult to learn. It's a little bit more difficult to apply, but most people just haven't thought to take the time. Like in 1994 and 95, it didn't take a genius to sit there and say, well, at some point, if bits are bits, right? No matter if you're communicating digitally over the internet, it doesn't have to stay text. But nobody did it, and we took the initiative to say, bits are bits, all right, let's see what happens. And it wasn't easy, and we had to deal with a lot of naysayers. I mean, I can't tell you how many people would say, well, why would I need to use the internet? I mean, I got radio, I've got a television, they work, why would I use that? You just wait and see, We're gonna do to cable what cable did to traditional broadcast.
And I guess you know a lot about tech, and you've credited a lot of your past success to knowing the tech industry really well.
Uh-huh.
And you've also parlayed like a couple $1 million from, I think, Micro Solutions into tens of millions of dollars through picking tech stocks.
Yep.
And so what would you say is the difference between being really well versed in a particular industry versus, I guess, the more holistic way of just looking at stock market trends and knowing the entire stock market?
Well, you always have to ask yourself, and it's a great question, Cate, you always have to ask yourself, do I know as much as everybody that I'm buying or selling to? There's a saying, everybody's a genius in a bull market. And when a market's just going up, everybody feels really, really, really smart about all their stock picks until they don't. What I always try to do was say, what do I know about a company or an industry that they're in? And what advantages do I have and what advantages do I think that company has that are sustainable and really give them an advantage? So like my two biggest holdings, and I've said this publicly before, Netflix and Amazon. I think Amazon's the best startup in the world, the best company in the world, because they eat their own dog food, meaning they'll take the things that they develop internally to make their businesses more successful and turn those into products that they sell. They'll use them, and then when they're successful, they'll productize them and make them something they can sell, like AWS, and they innovate continuously like a startup. And so I look at how they're innovating. I look at the fact that data is so important to feeding artificial intelligence to get an edge, that I thought, okay, they have a real chance to continue to grow and be incredible like that they have to this point. And Netflix is a little bit different. Netflix made one of the most brilliant moves of all time when they went to content producers, whether movies or TVs, and said, you know what, you have all this content you're not monetizing. Everybody else wants to pay you a commission. You know, when we sell your TV show or your movie online, then we'll pay you a commission. What Netflix said was, I'm gonna give you money up front. I have so much confidence in my ability to sell. I'm gonna give you all this money up front if you'll give it to me and nobody else. And then we'll bundle all that together and sell that first on DVD and then in streaming. And so they took that initiative and took that risk and managed to really turn it into something special. And now that they're into streaming and content production, they've recognized that they can be big enough that they're not just seen as an aggregator of content or a producer of content, but they're bigger than the traditional cable companies or the traditional satellite companies. So that in the past, you know, what we would do is you go to the programming guide and hope there was something good on HBO and hope there was something good on Showtime or TNT or NBA TV. And if there wasn't, it'd be like, okay, maybe I'll do something else. Now, you know, you can still do that, but for, you know, younger demos, it's like, I got Netflix. There's so much new content coming all the time globally. What else do I need? And that gives them a lot of pricing elasticity. That gives them content that's reusable forever. And they have so many options available to them. That's why I've invested in them. Now, I know when somebody sells me a share of Netflix that I'm buying, they have their reason to think that it's going down or not going up. And I have to consider, okay, what's the alternative? And what is the short-term impact versus the long-term impact? And so because I see Netflix and Amazon as long-term holdings that I think will grow as companies significantly over time, I'm willing to deal with the short-term fluctuations in their price. So that's the long-winded answer to investing by Mark Cuban.
And well, speaking of Amazon, it's the most valuable company today in the US. And Amazon wasn't even around 25 years ago. I think it was started in 94, 96 as a book rental
reseller.
reseller.
The largest bookstore in the world or something like that.
Yeah. And so do you think the most valuable company in the world 25 years from now exists in the world today?
No, I think the first trillionaire is going to come from somebody who figures out how to simplify AI and apply it in ways we haven't thought of. You know, my kids are 9, 12, and 15, and whenever we go someplace, I always do the dad thing, right? And I say, look around. I'm like, okay, Dad, we already know what you're going to say. Everything you see that's not organic, meaning trees, whatever, everything you see, it was somebody's idea. And then they did something about that idea and made it, whether it's Gatorade Zero, whether it's this chair, whether it's this mic, whether that format, whether that style, whether this. Somebody had to have that idea. And that was all before AI and how science is changing, how tech is changing. With all the new things coming out, introducing AI to it, there's going to be everything new. Maybe this chair design is not the best design. Maybe this bottle design is not the best bottle design. Maybe using AI will come up with better, formats, better, designs, better everything. And why will AI be different? Because the difference right now, today, for most 99.99% of people and companies, there's somebody who has kind of a feel for it, and they'll say, here's what I think will work, and I'm going to take a chance here, and I might produce a prototype, or I might start small and grow it, but I kind of have this feel for it. With AI, and as part of that, I might run a bunch of different simulations, but I'll pick these variables and I'll try them over and over and over again. What if this? What if that? With AI, if you have enough processing power, you can just throw in your data and throw in your variables and say, you look at every permutation, you look at every alternative AI, and come back and spit out things that reach these delimiters or reach these benchmarks that I'm looking for. And one may look really funky, but the next one, you might say, wow, I didn't think of this. I wish I had, and I'm going to put it to work. It's the ability of AI to contemplate everything. And then once it's contemplated everything and given you choices and you iterate with it, then it can start what's called generalizing and start saying, why don't you try this? Have you thought of that? Try this. And we haven't really seen implementations across all of business. And again, it's not a lot different than, you know, the early days of PCs. Oh, we're going to use PCs for this. You know, I remember one of the software programs I wrote was for a company called Zales, a jewelry company. And they used to always, was it Zales? Yeah, it was Zales. And they sold jewelry, and they used to have one of everything in a safe. And so when they sold out of this style Rolex watch, they'd go down and say, this is the style, right? You know, maybe they had a picture if it was really expensive. And I wrote an application that integrated video with a database, with a multi-user server, and just let them look it up by picture or look it up by part number. So they didn't have to store all that money's worth of stuff. That was like huge to them, huge. Now that just seems so simple and so stupid, right? You could do that with your eyes closed. AI is going to have those same type of transformational business applications. And so for the Cates of the world to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to take some tutorials, I'm going to get ahead of it, because when we go back to talking about critical thinking, if you start thinking, all right, now do I understand that I understand how AI and neural networks and machine learning works and GANs work, wow, I see this opportunity to apply that here. And chances are, no one else has thought of that. Or maybe they thought of it and tried to apply AI and either didn't know how or just didn't follow through. That's the opportunity for all the young investors that are out there. And the same thing applies to investing. You know, when you think about all the universe of stocks, now there's only about, in the United States anyways, there's 3,000 or so public companies now. There used to be 8, 9, 10,000 of them. So the universe isn't as big, but being able to go through all the data that's available online that applies directly or tangentially to any given company or officer of the company or employee of the company and find nuanced information is big. Because even still in picking stocks, even if you go to the biggest bankers, most of them don't do the work. You know, I can tell you story after story where it was just something obvious that everybody just took for granted and didn't check out. Am I boring you to tears with all this stuff, Cate?
No, I'm learning so much.
Oh, I appreciate that.
And well, just I guess continuing on with the investing, in a nutshell, what advice would you give to teenagers specifically about investing?
Don't day trade, right? Don't, you know, when you're young, and for some of us when we're old, no, I'm still young, I can't say that. You know, you tend to think, okay, I got this figured out. And I think it was Bill Gates that said something to the effect of the greatest curse is early success, because you think you know more than you do. And I think when you're investing when you're young, you've got to learn how to research stocks, but when you do something, don't do it to trade in and out, because that's going to give you the worst results. It's really, really hard to beat the market. And you might get lucky every now and then, but like I said earlier, you know, it'll take you a long time to build up a net worth in stocks. It could take you just a millisecond to lose it all. Mm-hmm. And so be patient. And recognize the difference between trading and experimenting and investing, because all three are different.
All right, so we thought it would be fun to do a lightning round.
Cool.
We have a number of questions. Cate and I can alternate through the questions.
Fire away.
And these can be short answers. Okay, Mark Cuban, what is your favorite dessert?
Tiramisu.
Tiramisu.
When you travel with the Mavericks, what is your favorite NBA city to travel to?
I don't know, Miami, because it's the warmest. Yeah.
Nice.
No, I take that back. Indiana, playing the Pacers, because I get to see all my college friends.
Yeah.
That's not so lightning, but yeah, that's pretty Pacers.
What was the first stock you ever bought? Do you remember?
Oh my goodness. It wasn't Gandalf Technologies. Pacer Technologies, because a friend told me about it. I wasn't really trading back then. I just wanted to dip my toes in, and it was one of those bucket shop stocks. It was a mistake. Yeah. I got crushed. Yeah,
like you said, learned a lesson. Right?
I learned a lesson. Yeah, it wasn't expensive.
And what was the last stock you bought?
Amazon. I just bought Jan 2020 calls, 2,000 calls for $6.73. So there you go.
Nice. What one celebrity judge would you love to see on Shark Tank?
Ha! Well, we just had Charles Barkley. He was who I really wanted on there before.
Yeah.
Dan Gilbert, who's owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah.
He's funny as hell.
Yeah.
He's got attitude, and he's not shy. So Dan Gilbert would probably be great.
And what investment on Shark Tank are you most proud of?
A company called Cycloramic. They came on about 5 years ago when I think it was the Apple 4 or 5 was out. And the Apple, whichever one it was, had a flat bezel on the bottom of it, so you could just put it right there and it would stand right up. And they came up with this app that used the different sensors in it to make the phone turn so they could do a panoramic picture or video. So you would load Cycloramic and you'd hit the button, it'd count down, and then it would just turn on a flat surface. Boom, 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 boom. It was really cool. Got right to the top of the App Store, 99 cents a pop. We made a lot of money early on, and then the iPhone changed.
Yep.
As you know, you can't just stick it on the edge anymore. And so we got them to pivot to use that technology and apply it to computer vision. All the stitching, what they had was stitching technology, so they could take different pictures and videos and stitch them together and smoothly transition. And we then had them apply, we brought in a new CEO, and Bruno, the guy who started the company, stayed as the CTO, and we had him apply it to taking, using computer vision and the stitching to take videos of cars that you could then use your finger online to rotate them. So if you ever go online and look at cars, you know, it'll show you an image and then you can turn it and look at it. And if it's a used car, it has a dent, you can see the dent, you can open the door. Well, they just sold that company to Carvana for $22 million in stock and cash. And now with the stock, it's a $40 million deal.
Wow.
And so it's just crushed it.
How much did you invest?
I've invested $250K for 20% of the company, I think. So it turned out pretty well.
That's pretty good. What book, other than your own book, do you give away most often?
Do I give away most often? Just mine. I don't give away books.
What do you recommend?
I recommend, really depends to who. There's a book called The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. So if you're starting a company, I'm a big fan of Lean and Mean. Yeah. If you want to learn about artificial intelligence, there's Machine Learning for Dummies. And I've actually given that out. There's another book called The Master Algorithm that I recommend. It just depends on what you're fired up about.
And what's your favorite activity that you like to do with your family?
Go to my kids' basketball games, play basketball with my kids. That's kind of obvious, I guess. Other than that, at dinner, we do all kinds of stupid games. And like last night, we were playing Mad Libs, just dumb stuff. But yeah, we're a goofy family.
You play a president on the movie Sharknado.
Sharknado 3,
Sure. Yeah.
and I'm a great actor. Sharknado 3, go get it right now. And in theaters right now is What Men Want, and I'm in that too. So there you go, as an actor.
So you played president. Do you want to make any announcements here on the YIS stage to the youth of America?
Yes, I do. Go see What Men Want in theaters right now. Nope, nothing to announce.
Well, you've been interviewed by a lot of people in different places on podcasts, interviews, TV, and also YIS before. Could you tell us one thing about Mark Cuban that no one else knows?
I'm terrified of heights.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, it's brutal. Like kids want to go zip lining. Hell no. Like skiing, I've never been skiing in my entire life. That's nothing. Trying to keep my son from getting excited about golf like one of his friends because I hate golf. I played golf once, and it was the most miserable experience of my entire life. I thought I'd be like, it was customer golf. Oh, it was brutal. Threw those clubs away. So there's some fun facts about me.
All right. Well, thank you, Mark, for your time.
Thank you, guys.
And
Thanks,
for
Jim.
participating in the Shark Tank contest for young investors.
Great job, Cate.
Thank
Great
you.
presentation. You earned it. I'm glad you're here. Glad you came all this way. That says a lot. Hopefully I didn't disappoint you.
No, definitely not.